Lesson 66. My happiness and my function are one. You have surely noticed an emphasis throughout our recent lessons on the connection between fulfilling your function and achieving happiness. This is because you do not really see the connection. Yet there is more than just a connection between them. They are the same. Their forms are different, but their content is completely one. The ego does constant battle with the Holy Spirit on the fundamental question of what your function is. So does it do constant battle with the Holy Spirit about what your happiness is. It is not a two-way battle. The ego attacks and the Holy Spirit does not respond. He knows what your function is, and he knows that it is your happiness. Today we will try to go past this wholly meaningless battle and arrive at the truth about your function. We will not engage in senseless arguments about what it is. We will not become hopelessly involved in defining happiness and determining the means for achieving it. We will not indulge the ego by listening to its attacks on truth. We will merely be glad that we can find out what truth is. Our longer practice period today has as its purpose your acceptance of the fact that not only is there a very real connection between the function God gave you and your happiness, but that they are actually identical. God gives you only happiness. Therefore, the function He gave you must be happiness, even if it appears to be different. Today's exercises are an attempt to go beyond these differences in appearance and recognize a common content where it exists in truth. Begin the 10 to 15 minute practice period by reviewing these thoughts. God gives me only happiness. He has given my function to me. Therefore, my function must be happiness. Try to see the logic in this sequence, even if you do not yet accept the conclusion. It is only if the first two thoughts are wrong that the conclusion could be false. Let us then think about the premises for a while as we are practicing. The first premise is that God gives you only happiness. This could be false, of course, but in order to be false, it is necessary to define God as something He is not. Love cannot give evil, and what is not happiness is evil. God cannot give what He does not have, and He cannot have what He is not. Unless God gives you only happiness, He must be evil. And it is this definition of Him you are believing if you do not accept the first premise. The second premise is that God has given you your function. We have seen that there are only two parts of your mind. One is ruled by the ego and is made up of illusions. The other is the home of the Holy Spirit, where truth abides. There are no other guides but these to choose between, and no other outcomes possible as a result of your choice, but the fear that the ego always engenders, and the love that the Holy Spirit always offers to replace it. Thus it must be that your function is established by God through His voice, or is made by the ego which you have made to replace Him. Which is true? Unless God gave your function to you, it must be the gift of the ego. Does the ego really have gifts to give, being itself an illusion and offering only the illusion of gifts? Think about this during the longer practice period today. Think also about the many forms the illusion of your function has taken in your mind, and the many ways in which you tried to find salvation under the ego's guidance. Did you find it? Were you happy? Did they bring you peace? We need great honesty today. We need great honesty today. Remember the outcomes fairly, and consider also whether it was ever reasonable to expect happiness from anything the ego ever proposed. Yet the ego is the only alternative to the Holy Spirit's voice. You will listen to madness or hear the truth. Try to make this choice as you think about the premises on which our conclusion rests, the conclusion being, my function must be happiness. We can share in this conclusion, but in no other, for God Himself shares it with us. Today's idea is another giant stride in the perception of the same as the same and the different as different. On one side stand all illusions. All truth stands on the other. Let us try today to realize that only the truth is true. In the shorter practice periods, which would be most helpful today, if undertaken twice an hour, this form of the application is suggested. My happiness and function are one because God has given me both. It will not take more than a minute, and probably less, to repeat these words slowly and think about them a little while as you say them. My happiness and my function are one. There's so much here. When I think, I love this lesson, no, I love that lesson, no, I love this lesson, no, I love that lesson. People say, what's your favorite lesson? What's your favorite principle? All of it. Have you seen my book with the Post-it notes? That. Hang on. I don't know. What's my favorite? What's my favorite? That is an impossible question because the truth is simple. That looks complicated. But the truth is simple. It's as if you have to get it all in and then it's assimilated in a way where it's actually really very simple. My happiness and my function are one. You were created by God to be like Him. What does this lesson say? Hold up, This lesson says God cannot give what He does not have, and He cannot have what He is not, because He is all that is. So He cannot give what He's not. Therefore, He cannot create what He is not. He creates in His own likeness, because He is all that there is. Therefore, if He created you, which He did, then you are a loving creation of God, and He created you to be like Him, and His function is to create. His function is to extend love. His function is to express love. And that is your function as well, miracle worker. So what would bring you happiness? To do that which you were created to do. To create the good, the beautiful, the holy, the loving, the true, the miraculous. And especially in a world that so desperately needs that. The past few lessons have been a progression, as it said, so that we can remember, because we don't believe it yet. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. Let me not forget my function. My function is the one that God gave me, my only function. And my happiness and my function are one. So forgiveness equates to my happiness. We've talked about your function being your creative ability, your ability to extend, express love, to work miracles. Miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. So forgiveness, we've also talked about, is the ultimate expression of love. So why does it make us happy to forgive? Why does it make us happy to perform our function, to work miracles? Because remember, there's only one of us here. At the level of spirit, at the level of mind, we are deeply connected. And when we give back to ourselves. When we give to a brother, we're really giving to ourselves. When we work a miracle, when we extend love, when we forgive, whatever it is, we are fortifying that knowledge, that understanding within ourselves as well. There is a boomerang effect. It's like in the holidays or birthdays when we give gifts to each other. We're so happy to see someone receive. I recall Oprah talking about those shows where she would give the audience, the gifts, and one right after the other, and they didn't know, and they were so surprised. Or any audience member that was on any show, like Ellen did a lot of this, and other people who hosted shows did this. The surprise, the gift, the joy rising just by seeing the look on someone's face and knowing you've made a difference. That is a miracle. That is a miracle to the receiver, and it's a miracle to you again as well. But you first have to be in that place of giving, of extending love. You generate all of that. And that has ripple effects to those people's family members, those people's children, to other people, to the people that were watching the shows. But it doesn't have to be a TV show, or a holiday or a birthday. We can do this in any moment at any time. There's that line in A Course in Miracles, you can have a grievance or a miracle, you can't have both. And that's because with one, you are extending love, you're performing your function, and you're forgiving if a grievance is involved. And with another, you're not forgiving. You're withholding love. You are withholding love. You are blocking the flow of love and God and holiness within you. Not only to someone else. We think it's to someone else, but to yourself. Because it's really heavy. We feel that, don't we? When something's not right, when there's conflict or upset. A lot of time, I know for me, I just want, let's find a solution, because I don't want to carry this into the night. I don't want to go to bed angry, as they say. Let's find some kind of resolution that feels good for both of us, because it's heavy. It's not natural. Extending love is natural. In paragraph 9 and 10, I so appreciate the vibe, the snarkiness, the energy with which the Voice for God, with which Jesus is articulating this message, because it so resonates and is on point with the Voice for God that's in my head. He's patient, he's humorous at times, he's direct, he knows exactly what to say to me to make me laugh at myself, to get over myself, but also to be challenging, to help me to realize he's serious about what he's saying and to take it seriously. But there's no attack there. The master teacher, there's no attack. And you really get that. And I love his sense of humor. I love his snarkiness. It reminds me of one of my mentors, Dr. Pat Allen. She could really read me like that and I would laugh at myself. So I so appreciate that tone in a teacher, and that has been my experience, and perhaps that is just the way the Holy Spirit is using my own subconscious for me to listen appropriately. But, trying to find salvation under the ego's guidance, which is misguidance, did you find it? Were you happy? How did that work out for you? It's like, yeah, maybe I'll just have a miracle instead, and I'll trust you, Jesus, and I'll trust you, Holy Spirit. And it says, you will listen to madness or you will hear the truth. You will listen to madness, nonsense, 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 distraction, 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 or you will be still and know and hear the truth. Oh, it is so good. My happiness and my function are one. Let's go forgive and work miracles today.